Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tia Young, and I'll be serving as your lead flight attendant today. On behalf of Captain Shay Brown and the entire Comeback Champion crew, welcome aboard Flight 321, nonstop service to success. Now, if success is not your final destination, we kindly ask that you gather your personal belongings and deplane at this time. Our flight time today is a short 20 minutes. We'll be flying at an altitude of 35,000 feet and an airspeed of 550 miles per hour. On board today, you'll learn secrets to help upgrade your social skills for success, also known as the unwritten rules of society that can help you get ahead and come back even stronger than before. Maya Angelou once said, "Success is liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking how you do it." Now we ask that you sit back, relax, and prepare for takeoff. Now that we've reached our cruising altitude, I want you to close your eyes and think back 20 years ago. The year was 2001. What were you doing? Who were you with? Let me be more specific. The date was September 11th. Now, we all can remember what happened on that dreadful day. And of course, it was the terrorist attacks of 9/11. I can remember it like it was yesterday. You see, I was a United Airlines flight attendant and trainer. And I had been flying for 10 years, but I was on maternity leave at home in Florida that morning as I watched the breaking news unfold on the Today Show. Katie Couric reported that an airplane had flown into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. At first, we all thought that it was a horrible accident, but then 30 minutes later, she reported that another airplane had flown into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. Then suspicions of terrorism arose. I immediately began to pray for everyone involved and the lives that were lost. And at that time, I didn't know if my airline, United Airlines, was involved in any way, but found out soon after that American and United were the two flights, the airplanes that flew into the towers. And then shortly after that, two other airplanes went down. The third was American that crashed into the Pentagon. And the fourth, another United Airlines flight that crashed into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. I was completely devastated to find out that out of the four airplanes, two were my airline, United Airlines. Prayers were lifted for the passengers, crew members, and anyone that was killed on that day. And of course, also the first responders. And then I wondered, could I have been on one of those airplanes? Because I was based in Washington, D.C. at that time. Later in the investigation, we found out that the flight training schools had been infiltrated by terrorists. And I wondered if the flight attendant training centers had also been infiltrated and targeted. Hindsight is 2020 because I remembered an incident back at the training center in Chicago in 1999. I was teaching a session and a student asked if he could videotape that session. And I said, of course. I thought he was just being very studious, but he had never asked before. And then he never asked again to record a session, but I didn't think much of it at the time. During that session, I taught the flight timeline from takeoff to landing for the flight attendants on board. Everything from when the flight attendants can get up to start serving food to when we had to put everything away to start preparing for landing. And I would hate to think that that recording got into the wrong hands. May we never forget the tragedies of 9/11. About 3,000 innocent lives were lost and 25,000 people were injured on that day. The travel industry took a big hit and many jobs were lost because people were afraid to fly. Therefore, less airplanes were needed. However, I was able to keep my job because I had been flying for over 10 years at that time and had enough seniority, and then was offered voluntary furlough, which is time off. And I was able to keep my medical, dental, and travel benefits. During that time off, I pivoted to a new career and I started my etiquette business a year later in 2002. After seeing so many rude passengers during the years, I wanted to make a positive difference in the lives of people and help them polish their social skills. By the way, I never did go back to flying when the economy did pick back up. I resigned and focused on building my etiquette business called Tia Young Image and Etiquette. Whew. Now take a deep breath. And I want you to think back again, but now 1 year ago. The year was 2020. Yes, 2020. Where were you and what were you doing when COVID-19 took over and closed everything down? It hit like a ton of bricks and put a halt to any and everything that was going on in our lives. This forced us to transition to a new normal. We started to hear terms and phrases like shelter in place, social distancing, stay at home order, pandemic, self isolate, quarantine, and then virtual meetings. Stay 6 feet apart, wear your mask, wash your hands, etc., etc., etc. We had to completely change the way we lived our lives. We're now working from home, teaching our kids from home, and we couldn't see our extended family members and friends. And the sad thing is that the 2020 high school and college graduates could not walk across the stage to receive their diplomas, so drive-bys took on a whole new meaning. I had to pivot as well and started teaching virtual etiquette sessions, and I also started a podcast called Normal to Formal. To date, there has been over 160 million COVID cases and over 3 million lives lost worldwide. Now that the vaccines are available, the world is slowly opening back up, and most of us are eager to get back out there even better than before. But stay safe as you enter back into society and take the proper precautions. Now, these two events that I just mentioned, 9/11 and COVID-19, have changed our lives in ways we didn't foresee. But we all must be able to move forward in a positive way. So, are you ready to come back? Are you ready to come back strong? Are you sure? I want you to say, I'm a comeback champion. I can't hear you. I'm a comeback champion. All right, let's roll. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please give me your full and undivided attention. I'll be sharing a few secrets to help you upgrade your soft skills for success. Our first focus will be first impressions, a seat at the table, and lasting impressions. These secrets will help you stand out amongst all of the other people that are transitioning back into the world. There will be a lot of congestion and heavy air traffic. So stay seated with your seatbelt fastened and remember to wear your mask. Number one, first impressions. I love the quote, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. In order to upgrade your personal and professional life, you have to dress like where you're going and not where you are. Your appearance is extremely important because we're normally judged within the first 10 seconds of meeting someone new. So dress like you belong. And I remember as a flight attendant, we often had the opportunity to upgrade passengers from economy class to first class at no charge. Now, this was a long time ago when the door was closed on the airplane and we were getting ready to back out. We would go back and pick one or two people, depending on how many seats were available, and making sure we had enough food to serve them and bring them up to first class. But they had to look the part. They had to be dressed professionally, and we knew that they will know how to behave once they got to first class. So always dress for success. Nothing too tight, nothing too loose. Make sure it's just right. And if you're like most of us, you've gained a few COVID curves and pandemic pounds during 2020, but you want to wear what fits now. Solid colors are best. Business casual is best, but still make it comfortable. Check what the attire is on an invitation and make sure you're dressed properly. And don't forget your best accessory, and that's your smile. These things will set the tone for future business relationships. Number 2, now that you have a seat at the table, what do you do next? And the table can be the conference table at a meeting, or it can be the dining table, or it can be the first class tray table. However you get there, what do you do next? And I love the quote, good manners will open doors that the best education cannot. No matter how educated you are, if you're rude and disrespectful, you will not get very far. Education may get you to the table, but it will not keep you there. Always put away that cell phone. If you can touch the person, the screen is not as important. Give them your full and undivided attention. Turn the ringer off. Make sure that light's not blinking. You're not getting text and looking at them. It's very distracting to the person that you're with. Limit the distractions and be present. Give full eye contact, firm handshake. If you're comfortable with shaking hands, you might have to do an elbow bump. You might have to do a bow, whatever you're comfortable with. And then greet them back with their name. People like to hear their name, so try to say it 2 to 3 times in the conversation. Have open body language. Don't cross your arms, because that says to them you're bored or you're not interested. Make sure if it's a meeting, you bring a pen and paper, because you don't want to use your cell phone to take notes, because it looks like you're doing other things on there, checking social media or whatever it may be. Bring a paper and pen to be able to take notes. When combining meals with business, wait for the host to initiate starting the meal. You don't want to order more courses than the host does. If they don't order dessert, then you don't order dessert. You want to mirror what they're doing. Don't season your food before you taste it. Salt, pepper, all those things. Hot sauce, don't do it. Taste it first, and if you absolutely have to put something on it, then do. Cut one bite at a time, not the whole piece of meat. Don't order messy foods, spaghetti, crab legs, whatever that's messy, corn on the cob. Messy foods, don't order in a business setting. And don't drink too much. 1 drink, maybe 2 at the most. You don't want to do things that you will regret later. And number 3, lasting impressions. Always say thank you verbally. And I always recommend a handwritten thank you note. It really says a lot. You've gone the extra mile to show your appreciation. So always show that appreciation and gratitude. Be a good listener, share the conversation, at least 50-50, but let them talk more actually. And then they'll feel that it's been a great conversation. Clean up after yourself. Never leave a mess for someone else to clean up. And never leave without an exit greeting. If you're with a group of people, you don't want to just sneak out. Always say goodbye and thank them. And then follow up. Call them maybe the next week to talk about what you might have talked about, or getting together and moving forward with whatever business you may have. And one of the most important things, common courtesies. They never go out of style. Those are please, thank you, excuse me, you're welcome, and I'm sorry. Never go out of style. And they're still magic words. So in summary, great impressions, first impressions, knowing what to do once you get at the table, and leaving lasting impressions are all ways to upgrade your social skills for success. Things will happen in our lives that are beyond our control. What is important is how you react and